On Tuesday night, David, conditions at the Oval were more than a little tricky, but Glentoran came through to beat Coleraine 2-1 in the semi-final of the Bet McLean Cup to set up a final with Linfield on Sunday, March 15th. It's going to be an incredibly exciting occasion, but let's first of all focus on the semi-final. Glentoran and Coleraine, a tight game, a tough game, but Glentoran came through in the end.
I think, Keith, we've got to start by giving both sets of players enormous credit. It was a horrible, horrible evening. And, prior to the game, it was to touch and go as to whether it would be on. And that was just simply because of the deluge of rain that had been pouring down all over Northern Ireland. But I've got to say, on the night, both sets of players really give their all. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I thought it was a great watch, particularly second half. And I've got to say, Glentoran on the night thoroughly deserved their victory. For me, Pat Hoban was absolutely outstanding, but James Singleton also was a standout. In fact, the whole team, Glentoran side, were standout, and I think on the night they certainly did that little bit more, which very much merited their victory, and obviously their place now in a Big Two McLean League Cup final.
We have to talk about that Joel Cooper goal before we move on. I mean, obviously Coleraine came out on the losing side, but what a moment of magic from Cooper. That was sensational.
Absolute screamer. Yeah. Screamer. I think Declan maybe described it, as a poor goal to concede. And I can see where he's coming from in that, Joel chased down what was a lost cause, won a sliding tackle, then got up, used his mobility, his strength. But what an incredible strike, and once it leaves his foot, there's no one saving it. I can see why Declan would have probably expected more of his defenders. He would have expected at least one or two to win the tackle. But Joel, in terms of that, he just showed what he's all about. He has got strength, he has got pace. Technically, he's absolutely outstanding, and it was a rocket, fantastic goal. And I know that some of the Coleraine fans were probably disappointed, not even so much as not reaching a final, but the fact that such a wonderful strike, ultimately didn't have any significance or any bearing on the game.
Thinking about Coleraine, obviously a disappointing result for them. They've got some fantastic players, good league form, but they do seem to have a habit of losing those really big games. What do you think the issue is there?
This could be totally left field. Rory has signed very well. There is absolutely no doubt of the quality and the depth and strength that they have. But I think that there's always a period for players to adapt to the Irish League. The Irish League is like no other league. It's I can't overly explain it, but you've got to be used to it. And on a night when, as I said, there was the wind and the rain, a big part of it, was about guts, was about determination, was about desire. Big part of it, Keith, is about just getting stuck in. I'm not saying for 1 second that the Coleraine players didn't approach with that pragmatic attitude. But I think, when I looked at the Glentoran performance, I looked at, on occasions when a ball had to be, cleared, maybe Coleraine would have maybe looked to pass or play out. Glentoran just put their foot through it, So there's some very simple, basic things that was done on the night. And I think that, there is no doubt Coleraine and the players will learn again from that experience. That will help them going forward. But I think it's a bit about adaptability. Probably if I'm being truthful, Keith. So that's where I see things. Glentoran, no surprise even when you look at some of their signings. Jarlath O'Rourke, Ross Clark, seasoned pre-pros, people who've been around in the Irish League. Jack Malone, played up here as well. So when you look where Rory has brought his players from the League of Ireland, and the game up here is most certainly different than down there. So I think it's around adaptability. But on the night, for me, Glentoran were the better side and fully deserved their victory.
And that sets up a Big Two final. Unbelievably, the first Big Two final in 16 years. When I was growing up in the days of 7 trophies, it felt like it was just a case of how many Big Two finals there would be this year, but it's been a long time. What can we expect from that final? Two evenly matched teams, massive crowd expected at Windsor Park. What sort of occasion are you expecting?
Well, there's special nights. There's special nights. Now, I did say in my column a couple of weeks back that it was, while the traditionalist, and me being one of them, would love a Glentoran Linfield final. Certainly, the support that Coleraine bring to the game, I thought, well, that would be as equal as a spectacle. But there is no doubt that when you have a Linfield Glentoran final, then it's particularly special. Up until now, the Boxing Day game, Glentoran came to Windsor Park and were much superior. And were impressive on the day, and I think there was obviously a general disappointment from David Healy and from his players and how they performed. So there's obviously a trophy up for grabs. There's also the passageway into Europe, which no one should forget about. I'm hoping that the crowd or the attendance will be maximised. I'm really, really hoping that it's we're not going to be cut
that's
back.
The big question. I have no doubt that this game will sell out.
Yeah.
But the question is how many tickets are actually going to be made available. We've seen in the past large sections of Windsor Park blocked off for security reasons. We don't want to see that, right? We want to see as many people there as possible.
I would. I want to put it maxed out. I want it to be the occasion that should be. On behalf of the sponsors, Mr. Paul McLean, and who have absolutely backed the competition big style, they deserve a big day out. And I would like to think that in this day and age, then while health and safety are vitally important, while security is vitally important, while we want the day to go off as peacefully as it possibly could. I want to see a game of football loved and enjoyed. Yes, the rivalry is absolutely tense. Gee whiz, I know how intense it is. But from a purely footballing point of view, you want as many people to be able to attend that game as possible, so we can just enjoy the atmosphere, the occasion, and all that it brings. And I'm telling you, there's nothing like a rockin' Windsor Park. I was blessed to have played in many, but then managed when we had big crowds, Keith. So I'm hoping that NIFL and all of the authorities, have got that top of their agenda. How can we make sure we have as many people in here watching this game as possible? And that will add to what it will be, no doubt, a fantastic occasion. And I would think an absolute belting match. I was at the Ballymena United Linfield game. Again, a very tough game, no doubt for me on the night that Linfield deserved it to progress to the final. They were the better side, particularly in the first half. And as I say, having watched Glentoran against Coleraine, no doubt Glentoran were worthy and most deserved winners. So we've got two teams there very much on merit, and what a day and what a final it could be.
Do you remember the last Big Two final? 2010 County Antrim Shield final?
I do. Unfortunately, that was at Seaview, and I think we were chinned that day 3-1. So it doesn't make for a great memory. But if I do remember, Mr. Bailie, the last time that Linfield played Glentoran in a League Cup final, I think Linfield were victorious on that occasion.
Correct, 3-0. 20 seasons ago, it was December 2005. And who scored a hat-trick?
The one and only Mr. Glenn Ferguson. And I've got to say, I remember it fondly because that, I think, was maybe part of our clean sweep year. And if I remember correctly, then was there an Irish Cup final after that? Did we play?
There was an Irish Cup final. Was it 2005? I think it was 2006.
I thought it was 2005, 2006. Yeah. Where so
we've all goal.
But listen, it's at the end of the day, history, absolute history. It's about now looking forward to another big occasion. Hopefully, a great occasion, a fantastic game of football, and may the best side win.